You don't know, you better ask somebody. You listening to the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week my guest is the boyfriend of an Olympic gold medalist, the brother of an Olympic silver medalist, and Chris Logan is an all-around badass himself. While Chris grew up as a competitor, both in skiing and team sports, he followed his brother's path in skiing out into the backcountry instead of his sister's path to Olympic dreams. From his big break as runner-up in Level 1 Super Unknown to quitting the contest scene and focusing on the backcountry, Chris has filmed for some big movies, created his own production company, and had more powder days than he ever possibly imagined. He's also a really rad dude that I was excited to have over for a couple hours. Before we get into the podcast, I want to ask you to do a huge favor for me that most of you won't do. If you listen to me on iTunes and have an iPhone, I want you to give me a rating. 5 stars is preferred, and here's what you need to do. Hit the podcast icon on your iPhone, search for the Powell Movement, hit the Powell Movement icon, scroll down to where you see the stars, and touch your finger to the 5-star area. It's that easy. You can also subscribe to the podcast there, so you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I would normally ask you to do a couple other things for me, but since this is a huge ask, I'll save the other stuff for the outro. I do want to thank my amazing sponsors who make this show happen. They are Evo, Stanley, Spy, 686, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Now, let's talk to Chris Logan. Where'd Caitlin go?
She's snoozing in the car. I think she's pretty tired.
Big night?
1 margarita too many or something like that.
You're here with your girlfriend, Caitlin Farrington. You guys had a big night last night. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm doing great.
What did you guys do?
We got some sushi, had a couple of drinks, and kind of just hung out, enjoyed Seattle.
Okay. And how long have you two been dating?
A little over 3 years.
Okay, so a long time. She's an Olympic gold medalist and a cowgirl all mixed into one. You also have a sister who's an Olympic silver medalist, Devin Logan, and she attributes a lot of things to chasing around her older brothers when she was growing up. Is Devin dating anyone?
She is. She's dating this dude, Travis. They've been dating for 5 or 6 years, I think.
Oh, wow. So it's like almost marriage time.
I guess so. I don't know.
5 or 6 years, I feel like, is a long time. Do you approve?
I definitely do. Yeah, he's cool.
Okay. And you have made your name in the ski world by doing what you do. But is it weird to be overshadowed by both your partner and your sister? Because what you do is one thing, but you get on that airplane and you sit next to someone and they say, "What do you do?" And you're like, "I'm a skier." And then they look next to you and your girlfriend's there like, "What do you do?" She's like, "I'm an Olympic gold medalist." Your sister would say, "I'm an Olympic silver medalist." Is it ever weird being overshadowed?
No. I kind of like it, actually. It makes conversation easier on me. I could just talk about them, which I think I'm better at. I don't really like talking about myself too much.
Well, it's perfect for a podcast. Yeah, we won't talk about you at all.
No, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I usually get like, "Oh, you're Devin's brother." Yeah, Caitlin's boyfriend. And yep, Chris, nice to meet you.
And that doesn't bother you at all?
No.
But there was a time when you were a contest dude. You focused on winning and getting podiums. And did you ever have those Olympic dreams?
I wouldn't say Olympic dreams, really. I think it was more like, when I was doing Dew Tour and X Games was kind of like the biggest one on the list. The Olympics wasn't really ever there for me. It was kind of more like X Games. I think when I got done competing, that's when the Olympics kind of kicked in and they brought in skiing. And by that point, I was kind of just on the film scene or kind of just wanted to focus on that. So that's kind of then when I shifted and all my focus kind of went there.
You did contests for a long, long time. Are you a super competitive dude, like a guy who wants to win? Like, how do you come into a contest when it's like your run?
Yeah, definitely. Very competitive. Grew up skiing on the East Coast, competing pretty much like my whole life. First was like moguls and upright aerials, the twister spreads. And then as the sport evolved, kind of shifted with that. And so, I was kind of competing my whole life. And then I definitely would go into contests and just like super focused, motivated, wanted to win. Yeah, kind of just went into like game mode.
One more question about contests to start this thing out. When your sister went to the Olympics, did you go to the Olympics and support her?
I did not. We were filming our first season of The Big Picture, and we were supporting her from Driggs, Idaho, Parker, Sean, and myself.
Is she bummed on that? Is that something that she will never let you live down?
I think she's all right with it. I don't know. You'd have to ask her. Has she said anything to you?
No, but it was her one shining moment.
Oh, yeah. No, I think she got it. Yeah, it was kind of like our first year of the project, and it just wasn't going to happen. My mom was able to make it over there for that, so that was super cool. And we were definitely watching at whatever time in the night when they went because of the time change, but I think she's all right about it.
Do you guys celebrate with her when she gets home? Just a big Logan throwdown?
Yeah, we definitely went and celebrated. She'd invited us to Vegas because it was her 21st birthday right after that. So they had a big Vegas party.
Did you not go to that one either?
No.
Jesus, man.
I know. I wish I went there for sure. But the same thing, we were kind of filming and trying to get stuff done and couldn't make her happen. But yeah, maybe the 31st.
All right, fair enough. Do you ever wear Caitlin's medal?
No, I haven't worn the medal. When Devin gave me her medal for the first time, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was drinking a beer and put it down and used it as a coaster. But no, never put the medal on. It's not really mine to wear.
Well, I figure you might put it on in some like compromising position, like, booyah, I'm wearing the medal.
Mirror on the ceiling. Check me out.
My grandparents had that at their beach house. It was super weird. Not even kidding. But life starts for you. It's like Long Island, New York, Oceanside area, I guess. Is it Oceanside?
Yep.
You come from a huge family. There's 5 kids, 3 girls, 2 boys. And I know how fun and time consuming and expensive one kid is. But having 5 is batshit crazy. And did it feel like everything in your life was traveling with a team when you were younger?
Yeah, a little bit. Everyone was doing something different, usually sports related. Yeah, I couldn't imagine my parents with 5 kids running each kid to their different sport or activity or whatever. And pretty wild household growing up. I don't know, it just seemed normal. I feel like now if I'm like by myself after just like being surrounded by so many people for so long in my life and just like one house, I'm like, where's everyone at? If I'm, just sitting by myself, I'm like, where the fuck is everyone, Like, yeah. It's quiet in here. It's never quiet. But yeah, it was just kind of normal. Yeah, it was awesome.
How do you pay for all of that? What did your parents do to pay for 5 kids? Because one kid is supposed to cost like $250,000. 5 of them cost 5 times that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, my dad worked on Wall Street for a while growing up and was able to afford all of us doing kind of anything that we wanted to do, skiing especially, not a cheap one. So he was the one, fronting the bill and working his ass off, and he's kind of done that his whole life, or as long as, I've known, and thanks, Pops.
And your mom has a full-time job at home, too, with 5 kids. I mean, sometimes a stay-at-home mom that has 1 kid, you can argue that you could probably work in that respect. But when you have 5, there's no working. You need someone to wrangle all those kids. Like, what kind of car did you guys drive? Was it Suburban all the time?
Yeah, we had a big green Suburban soccer mom vehicle. We'd all just pile in, and whether it was like my sister's going to soccer or softball or going up to Mount Snow, go skiing, it's just like hop on in and yeah.
And you guys are all jocks, so it's like everybody's got a sport, so there's practices. And then on the weekends, you go to Mount Snow to go skiing. What is that, like 4 hours from your house?
Yeah, we used to do the drives up on Friday after school, or sometimes we'd get pulled out of school early, go up, ski Saturday, Sunday, end of the day Sunday, hop in the car and head back down, and a lot of driving.
8 hours a weekend, and with no iPad, you might have had a Game Boy, but that just must have been miserable.
I feel like we had one of those like pop-up little DVD personal players.
Yeah.
So I remember just watching a ton of movies, probably a bunch of ski movies just on repeat, and that kept us entertained until we started fighting and Mom would scream at us in the back, "Don't make me pull this fucking car over. I'm about to kill one of you kids." Yeah, it was probably harder on her than it was on us for sure.
And you guys are big Jets fans growing up. What is your worst Jets memory? Because I'm sure there's plenty of them.
I think I'm the biggest Jets fan. When Devin was in middle school, they moved up to Vermont, and my mom switched to being a Patriots fan, which I will never let her live that one down.
I think Devin mentioned that. You can't do that. It's just not allowed.
That's bullshit. Yeah.
Is she going to be a fan of wherever Tom Brady goes for their next team?
Possibly. I don't know. Yeah, I would say I was kind of the big Jets fan. Then Dev came into, and yeah, definitely had some years of palm to face.
Your whole life?
My whole life. Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. Especially when, like, all your buddies, like, you're the only Jets fan, you know? Like, how many Jets fans do you know? It's the same for all my friends. Not too many. It's just me. So whenever they see, like, a miserable Jets game playing, it's just constant text like, ooh, how about those Jets? Like, dude, fuck off, man. I'm watching the game, too.
Well, the Chiefs did it this year. The Jets may be able to do it at some point, nowhere in the near future, but whatever.
I think the Sanchez butt fumble is probably the hardest one because they just love replaying that every Thanksgiving.
An inept play that describes a franchise for the past 50 years.
And it's funny, like, all my buddies, it's always next year. It's like, oh, next year's the year, so maybe next year.
But who's your quarterback?
That's a good question.
And then in the ski world, you get put into a program or you join a program. It's moguls and upright aerials. That means you can't get inverted, I believe. And you said like twister, spread, twister. Like, were you hitting the aerials type jumps?
Yeah, for me, I was young at that point, so it wasn't like any of the, you know, the double, the triple jumps like people doing full aerial style. But yeah, it was like aerial sight going to like a Lake Placid or a Waterville and some people doing that. And yeah, it's kind of just like how it started. I think even like acro skiing, we did acro skiing ballet style for 2 years. It was still kind of a thing, sort of on the dying end. And then moguls until maybe like middle school, 7th or 8th grade, I feel like. And then just like the way the sport went and watching, you know, all the videos, it was kind of like wanted to do that. Older brother Sean was kind of going in that direction. So it was definitely just like following him. I remember fighting with my dad for a while during those like years because he was thinking like moguls and aerials was kind of the way to go in the Olympics, and
there was a future there.
Definitely at that point. So there was years I remember going to Whistler one year for SMS camp, which is now Momentum, and they still had the mogul camp going on, and my dad signed me up for that. And I remember just like throwing a huge fit, wanting to do the free ride side of things. I was like, dude, moguls is done. Like, I want to do this park stuff. And for a while, it was definitely button heads there.
Did you have patches on your knees?
Yeah, we ran the fate pants. Yeah. Yeah, like the bullet knees. That was the style, man. Everyone at Mount Snow, like all the old rippers, the Deckers and Ryan Vescovi's. Yeah, everyone had the fate gear going, and that was the steez.
How were you doing in the mogul world and the aerial world?
I was doing pretty good, I thought. Usually, like, getting on the podium in both, I would say, like, kind of like middle school and elementary school. Like, there was the different age groups, so you would have your age group, and was always the competitor, I guess. I remember the first year doing it, just getting all the participation award ribbons, and I remember that pissing me off super bad. That first year, just, like, couldn't do it, but was learning the sport. And I think that definitely motivated me, and like seeing all your buddies like up there winning medals and this and that, just like put in hours on the trampoline in the backyard that off season and years after that, and just competitive, like our whole family, whatever sport you were doing, it was like you were out to fucking win. You weren't competing for second.
So you find the park around 12. Your brother finds it as well. He's what, like 3-4 years older?
Yeah, 3.5.
Are you skiing with him, or does he even want to hang with you at that age?
No, not at all.
He's just got his crew?
Yeah, he's got his crew. I kind of had my crew. It was always like, yeah, trying to hang out with your older brother and impress him and like do stuff to try to hang with him. But we like shared a room our whole lives, but we weren't like buddies. We're good buddies now. He's like one of my best buddies, you know, after years of filming together and living in Mammoth. But like growing up, we weren't like buddies hanging out. I was just like, you know, a pain in his ass pretty much. And so, yeah, I was like trying to hang out with him, but, you know, 3.5 years, he had his own crew and I had mine.
And his crew was a revolutionary crew for the East Coast. I mean, he was part of that whole Wicked crew. I think it was Neil Strapalakakis or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
And those dudes made a movie, Wicked, which probably changed your whole aspect of skiing. When you watch that movie, and anybody on the East Coast, that movie shifted perspectives, I feel like.
Definitely.
Was that the first movie that you got into, or were there some poor boy stuff, or how did that all happen?
Yeah, definitely a lot of poor boy stuff before then. I think Degenerates was like the first movie ever watching. I guess it was like VHS that my brother got, probably from just like our ski shop or something, and having Backflip Iron Cross poster on the wall. Bunch of Poor Boys movies. Level 1 was, I think, like 3 or 4 movies in. Maybe like Forward was about the same year that Wicked dropped, but definitely being from the East Coast and then having your brother and a bunch of older dudes who you had looked up to skiing, you know, your whole life, being like the stars of this movie. That was awesome, man. We watched that movie so many fucking times. It was insane. Decker opening segment, Jesse Malice, Ryan Vescovi, Tanner Rainville, so many fucking dudes. And then Sean closing her out. It was awesome being from the East Coast. So much of that stuff was filmed at Mount Snow and just like at all these spots that you've been to or know as well. So that was super cool. And then just like being younger, kind of the next one coming up was just like motivation. Like, I want to do that. I want to be there. I want to be that guy. So it was super rad.
And I think the timing, how it all worked out, that video comes out and it gets you really fired up because you know all those heroes already. Maybe they're not that cool to you at first because you're the little brother, but the timing for you when that movie came out was perfect because those guys are a few years ahead of you and they almost missed the big window where you actually lined up perfectly by having their inspiration. When the shit you were doing started to become popular, those dudes were already on their way out of the ski industry and you were just about to like explode in the ski industry. So while they were not letting you hang with them or ski with them, that 3.5-year gap really, I feel like, made your career. And for those guys, they had careers, but their careers were short because at that point, there was only a few people doing that. Those guys were like the Pollards and the Nimbus guys, and there wasn't room for anybody else. And then when you came around, that's what everybody wanted to see. And those guys, Pollard and all those guys, I feel like set the tone for the style of skiing that everybody's doing now, or at least the stuff that you are part of.
Definitely.
But another thing that happens is you play football as well. And I think you're like a pretty serious football player. When do you start playing football?
I started playing football at 7 years old.
Tackle football?
Yeah, like Pop Warner style. The like Pee Wee League was like 7 to 12 years old. And so, yeah, I was kind of loved watching it, wanted to play. Sean was a soccer player. My older sisters were soccer players and played football from 7 until senior year of high school.
And you were, what, a quarterback and something else?
Yeah, quarterback. But also, I kind of like never left the field. I punted, I kicked, defensive back. Yeah, come like high school. We weren't like one of the better schools out there, I guess, compared to a lot of the others, like playing against dudes who like ended up going into the NFL and shit. We were like a bunch of small, slow white kids. I had played defense pretty much my whole life. In 1 year, I didn't play in high school because they didn't want me to get hurt playing quarterback. And I remember like telling the coach, like, dude, I'm better than that dude playing cornerback. I need to be on the field, just competitive. And so, yeah, like throughout high school, playing both sides of the ball.
And high school was different for you, where you would do some time at Mount Snow Academy, and then you'd also play football. So it's like you lived a double life. What was more important to you at that point? Was it football? Did you want to be a pro football player, or did you want to be a pro skier? Where was your head back then?
A little of both, I guess. I think growing up, I want to be a pro football player for sure. Maybe like 10th grade, that really shifted. By that point, Sean had moved out to Mammoth and was doing the Mount Snow Academy thing and was pretty lazy in school, I guess. Just like didn't really want to be there. I just wanted to either go skiing or go play football. So yeah, probably like somewhere in high school there, kind of just shifted and was like, yeah, I'm going skiing. I kind of knew I was going to move out west, not go to college. Kind of had that thought.
Well, it's a lot harder to become a professional quarterback than it is to be a pro skier, but I mean, still, it's really hard to become a professional skier. Is there a hard moment in your life where you realize that, hey, I don't have the ability to be a pro quarterback, but I can probably be a pro skier?
Yeah, kind of stopped growing, so that was a big thing.
What are you, 5'10"?
Yeah, 5'10", 5'11" on a good day.
Russell Wilson's 5'11". He's a great pro quarterback.
Yeah, he makes a lot more money than I do. That probably should have stuck with that one.
You could have easily been Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think at a certain point, I like entertained the idea and like there was maybe that option, but didn't really like pursue it and had the thought that I just wanted to go skiing. My mentality was like, which would I rather give up and be okay doing the other one and live with? And the thought of getting my ass kicked by a bunch of these other bigger dudes, I was like, yeah, I'd be all right without that one. Like, let me take the hits that I know I'm going to take rather than like being blindsided by some 6'4" huge dude. So that played a little bit of a factor.
Is there something cool to being the quarterback at a high school football team? Do you walk around the school like owning it? Or do you get special treatment? Did you notice that back then?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe I could like run my mouth a little bit more and wouldn't get in as much trouble by the teachers or your coaches are teachers at the school. So maybe there's a little bit of a leeway there.
Did you get in much trouble when you were in high school?
Not really. No, I don't think so. I think I was pretty good.
Now it is time for me to take my first sponsor break. And if you listen to this podcast a lot, I hope you've started shopping at Evo. They're a big part of why I was able to launch this thing, and that's cool. But what's really cool about Evo are the people who work there, the knowledge they have, and the brands they carry. And while they have their in-store experience on lock, the website evo.com, where this thing all started, has all the brands, all the products, a no-hassle return policy, free shipping on orders over $50, and a low price guarantee. And they always have a deal going. For listening to the podcast, I have a deal for you. Evo makes a lot of branded products that are just as good or better than the big brand stuff. When you buy an Evo branded product, enter the code POWEL20 at checkout, and you will save 20% on your branded stuff. And know that 2% of this purchase will be donated to youth organizations in our community. My next sponsor is a rarity in the world of snow. 686 has been independently owned since 1992. And for almost 30 years, their products have been developed and tested by the world's best athletes. Names like Gigi Roof, Hannah Beeman, Kyle Mack, Parker White, and so many others. And I found that every piece of 686 gear that I have is the best piece of gear I've ever owned. First and foremost, I know my stuff looks good. That's really important to me. On top of that, it's more waterproof, warmer, well thought out, and more functional than anything I've ever owned. And I think you should own 686 too. And if you need to upgrade your kit, this is the week to do it. For the week of February 17th only, all 686 outerwear, gloves, and accessories are 20% off at 686.com and participating local shops. My final sponsor during this break is Stanley, the brand that has been a leader in keeping things hot and cold for over 100 years. They invented the vacuum bottle, and you've seen it so many times in your life. You know, that green bottle that kept your grandpa and your dad's coffee hot all day long? Well, Stanley still makes a bottle like that, now in a bunch of colors, and they work better than whatever you're using right now. The reason Stanley is the leader in hot and cold is because their product is better. I mean, they created the category and they keep innovating. But Stanley makes so much more than that iconic bottle. I personally use the water bottles and pint glasses daily, and my drinks stay hotter or colder than yours by at least an hour. You deserve that same quality. Now you can get 30% off all Stanley products by heading to their site, stanley-pmi.com, entering the code POWEL and the number 30, all one word, and boom, it's that easy. I just saved you money. Those are some of my great sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. High school, it's like I said, a weird one for you. So you do Mount Snow Academy, and you're living in Long Island. Eventually, your mom moves up to Mount Snow. I think probably makes everything easier. I don't know if you're able to live at home at that point where you don't have to be a boarding school person. But when you go to Mount Snow after football season, does everybody realize that you're like a full-on jock?
In skiing, them knowing that I'm a jock, or my high school and going skiing, them?
Both. Do people realize in high school that you're a badass skier? And do people in skiing realize that you're a full-on quarterback of the high school football team?
Yeah, I think because I would leave school, it's like 4 quarters. I'd go to the first quarter of high school in Long Island, play football, and then like second and third quarter, I wasn't at school. I was up at Mount Snow skiing. And so I think all my buddies knew I skied, and then a lot of other people in school were just like, oh, where did he go for these couple of months? And then I'd come back and finish high school in the 4th semester in the spring. So it was a bit of like, oh, he's this like skier, and where did he go? And then, I guess my buddies knew that I played football. Parker always gave me a hard time growing up skiing. You know, he was like this skateboarder from Vermont and skier and punk kid. And he would always kind of like tease me like, oh, Dark, the football player, like big jock. I was like, fuck you, Parker. I'm going to kick your ass, man. Like,
Did you guys drink and party back then too, or did that happen later?
Yeah. We were drinking in high school and smoking, getting into that sort of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of normal for a high school kid. And your parents split up. You and Devin, I believe, are still at home. It's probably harder on Devin than you, but that shit's never easy for anyone. And then you uproot your life and move up to Mount Snow because it's going to make it easier on the whole family, but I don't think your dad moves there. Is that whole production just like miserable for you, or do you just phase it out by skiing? How does that work for you?
I was pretty young when they split. I want to say I was like maybe 9, so I didn't quite like comprehend, and it wasn't like a huge deal for me.
Okay.
And yeah, we pretty much just like lived with mom the whole time. Dad was always there, seeing him all the time.
So it was normal. It was just a little different normal.
Exactly. It always like felt normal. They got along. I think, you know, having 5 kids made it work just because you're invested. You have that many kids that it's like, yeah, make it happen. And then, yeah, we would go up to Mount Snow. I went to the academy up there like 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. 9th grade, I went up there on my own. Mom was still down in Long Island, and we stayed at this house with a bunch of kids and not much supervision up there for the first year.
Fun.
We got into, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely got into a little bit of trouble. The next year after that, Dev ended up going as well, and Mom had moved up for the winter for my 10th and 11th grade. Parker lived with us, and that was before like they did the full like big move, and then they ended up doing that. I didn't go to the academy my senior year. Things were getting tight money-wise, and then...
Yeah, those places are probably like $40,000 a year.
Not that one. There are some that are definitely... That one wasn't cheap by any means, but was a little cheaper than like the CVAs and the Watervilles. But my mom ended up moving up there with Devin, and she ended up going to like public school up there, just like being closer and all that. I ended up living with my dad. And then that summer, like I knew I wasn't going to go there, but I didn't want to be in school all year. So I figured out how I could graduate early. So I ended up graduating my senior year in January. I took a couple of like night classes just so I could get all the credits I needed and get out of there. So basically, yeah, lived with dad like senior year, which was different. First time like us two being together in a small place. I felt like we were close quarters and figuring each other out. And I thought I knew it all, you know, senior year back in 12th grade.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew it all for sure. But yeah, I ended up graduating high school in January and then going up to Mount Snow and just skiing. My coach at the time, Jesse Malice, the head coach, he like went to the academy and basically told him like, yeah, Chris is going to be like the assistant coach. So it was pretty sweet. They paid me to basically go skiing the academy. I was like the assistant coach, which I pretty much just like skied. It wasn't really like coaching much. Like he was still coaching me. So that was pretty cool. I guess they were like one of my sponsors that year, kind of.
Well, I mean, if you look at it though, any kid that says they were coached by you now, it made that guy look really smart.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I did that for like 3 months or so. And then that spring ended up moving out to Mammoth. Parker was already out there, Nick Miles, Sean and the Montage dudes. So I went out there that spring for maybe like 2 months, and then I was going back that next year. I kind of already had that in mind and was moving out west.
With Parker, because we kind of skipped over how he moved in with you. You guys have a long history together. You grew up competing against each other, and I won't say that you guys didn't like each other, but you guys wanted to beat each other every weekend, and you weren't hanging out or anything at first. How does that relationship evolve into where you invite him to live with you?
Yeah, so he was skiing at Bromley and I was at Mount Snow, and just 2 little kids in the competition circuit, just like competitive against one another. I felt like a lot of the contests were like me versus him, or that's the way that I saw it. Like we were both doing
Jock
well.
versus Renegade.
And so, yeah, it was just like we were competitive. Brian Knowles was the coach at Bromley, and he used to coach at Mount Snow. So like we all kind of knew each other and hung out. We didn't like not get along. Like we got along, but I think there was just that competitiveness in the air and like really wanted to beat one another. Yeah, exactly. And then at some point in time, Brian ended up coming back to Mount Snow and being the head coach at Mount Snow Academy. When I was in 9th grade, Parker ended up coming over with a couple other buddies like Chris Canetta, Brian McKenna, Alex Cohn. So at that point, it was kind of just like, all right, well, I guess we're like teammates now. Because there was always that little bit of, competitiveness in the air. And it was like, all right, dude, we're on the same team now. It's just like me and you versus the rest of them. Fuck them all. Let's go. And so that first year, that was in the Mount Snow Academy house. And we were all just hanging out. And then with the little bit of trouble we got into, I remember his dad was like, yeah, you are not going to stay at this house next year. And he knew that my mom was moving up. We had a spot and basically like reached out and was like, can Parker stay with you guys? So we were pretty much like roommates the next 2 years, my 10th and 11th grade year. Yeah, it was kind of just on from there. It's like, we have a lot of similarities, but we're very different too. And we just like have gotten along. Me and him have never gotten into it. It's just been like best buddies from there. It's been good.
You're like brothers, so it's pretty cool to see. Life is all about contests for you guys back then. And then eventually Parker moves out. You move out to Mammoth a little bit afterwards. And being from Vermont, and I think it's Corinthia Parks.
Yeah, Corinthia Parks is now their thing. At that time, it was just like Mount Snow and Corinthia was just like the area where the park was. But now it's more...
They've branded it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you go to Mammoth, which I think is Unbound at that point. That's where everybody went. If you wanted to compete, you went to Mammoth and you trained at the terrain park there. And when you look at the parks nowadays, I mean, on the East Coast, it's brutal anytime you're skiing in the winter. And the only way to make it really fun, I feel like, is to have a good park. I mean, there's other ways to make it fun.
Yeah.
But having a good park really ties that all together. When you go to Mammoth, you find another level of a park. Now, who builds a better park every year?
Yeah. Mammoth blows Corinthia out of the water. Okay. I mean, for the East Coast, and when you're there growing up and you don't know anything else, like, that's the best shit. But then once you kind of, like, your eyes open up and see, I think Mammoth has the best park, like, hands down out of anywhere. Colorado, Utah, can't touch it. I think Mammoth's got the best shit.
And when you move out there, you kind of have, like, a cheater course. Parker's out there, your brother's out there, the Montage crew who doesn't want to hang with you when you're younger, when they're kind of the wicked crew. When they become Montage, you guys are all cool. I mean, everybody hangs out together and skis together. Are you focused for the first year or two on just park there? Because those guys seem like they started shifting their perspectives and heading into the backcountry when they were in Mammoth for a couple years. Does that happen to you right away, or does that take a little while?
For me, I think it took a little while. It was mostly just riding the park on POW days. That was like my introduction to powder skiing. So it was learning how to ski not ice, deeper snow, but it was pretty much just like living in the park. I remember like religiously watching Idea with those dudes like Decker, Nolan, Stu. Their focus fully shifted and they were like, all right, we need snowmobiles. So much of this shit is filmed in Sonora. That's all an hour or so away. We're doing that. I was 18, 19, wasn't quite there, like was watching all that shit and super intrigued by it, but I was still park focused. And then just like as those years went on, they started getting more into the backcountry and I was just obviously following suit. They were, the older dudes. And then, things just started shifting, skiing more POW. Competition stuff started slowing down.
How do you do in contests? What was your best results? Did you win anything?
I think some of the do tours, I'd made finals for like a year or two, which is like 10 out of the 30 people competing. There were a couple of those stops, but I was never like on the podium.
How much is the most money you ever walked from a contest with?
Not much. Maybe like $1,000 at the most. I know like even just making finals, it was like, here's $500, which was cool because then it paid for the flight and the this and the that. And I wasn't making really much money at all at that point.
Did you have sponsors at that point? Had people started stepping up and supporting you with a little travel here and there and product?
Yeah. I was riding for Rozzy, which I've been on with them since 8th or 9th grade. Okay. Since I was like 15.
Scratch years?
Yeah, scratch years. Okay. Yep. and then electric for a couple years there. And so they were helping out a little bit, some travel and, beer money, weed money, rent, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was kind of just making finals, but not quite the top of the list.
You're in the conversation, but you're not on the podium.
Yep.
Do you realize that you're not going to make it in contests? Do you kind of look at the tricks at some point and be like, I don't know if I have that, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger? What makes you head to the backcountry? Seeing what your brother and those guys are doing, and the combination of not being on the podium?
I always thought that I could. Like, I always went into those contests thinking like I had a chance if I put my shit down and skied well. I think it was more so getting to a contest and having it just be like super shitty weather and having to compete. Like, I remember one year leaving Mammoth in December. They probably got like 12 or 15 feet of snow in like 3 or 4 days. I had to leave that to go to Colorado to compete in a contest where it was like snowing and windy and shitty. I feel like that affected my performance. And I was just like, dude, fuck this. Like, this is stupid. At that point, had just kind of gotten a foot in the door with the level 1 dudes and felt like there was an opportunity there. So every time I would then go to a competition, I felt like I was missing out on a filming opportunity. And then, going to a contest where you're competing in a windy, powdery storm. It was just like, I'm kind of over it. I just want to focus on filming something. I grew up competing my whole life. I'm kind of over this, over just like those 2 runs, kind of defining your shit and being bummed on these 2 runs that I couldn't quite put together, even though I'd be skiing at Mammoth day in and day out and knew what I could do, but then I couldn't quite prove it at the contest or whatever. So just like a couple of those factors, and just kind of like got over it and said, fuck it. Not making much money to be able to do both, trying to juggle them both. I always felt like I was missing out on one when I was competing. So I was like, all right, I'm going to put all my focus in on the film stuff.
Yeah, I feel like with competing, the time that you got into it, you had to really be 100% into competing, because if you weren't going to win a contest. I mean, just the shit that people are doing is so ridiculous these days that you need to train, and training's a weird thing with skiing. I've never trained when I skied. I just ski to have fun. But when you're competing, you have to train, and you having the advantage of having a brother out there, whether it's probably a disadvantage for your contest days, because it gets you out in the backcountry earlier than you would have been. You focus less on contest skiing, but I think you get like a Summit 800. And what's the first year like on that sled? I hear it was a total challenge for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. Sean told us that Chris O'Connell had this package deal. I think it was a 2000 Ski-Doo 800, like a 146 track. He also had this like 98, I think it was a Polaris, super short track, like a 136 with a trailer for like $3,500. And they were basically like, him and Decker and all those dudes who had sleds and access and getting out there, they're like, yeah, we're done towing you out to all these spots. Like, if you guys want, you, Parker, and Nick should get this off of OC, and then like you could get yourself out there.
So wait, you were being towed out, like wakeboarding pretty much?
Yeah. I remember riding, I think it's like 15, 20 miles to get out to some spots in Sonora. Just like rope tow behind Decker's sled. You put your poles through it and you're just getting blasted the whole time. Your cotton's freezing, like all those tall tees. And they were awesome for bringing us out there and kind of showing us the ropes. And, I think they were learning at that point as well, just kind of getting into it. But we were always like a pain in their ass and bugging them. And it was like, oh, you guys are going? Can we come? Can we tow behind? Like, yeah, I guess so. When that came up, there was like, all right, you guys get this so you guys can get yourself out there. And we jumped on it. Me and Parker and Nick went in, split all of that. Nick had the Polaris and me and Parker co-owned that Summit 800, and it was a fucking backbreaker. It was like stuck mobiling 24/7. It was so fucking heavy. The bars were super low. You're just standing on it. But I had never really ridden a snowmobile before that, so didn't know any better. It was awesome. Looking back, like at the snowmobiles now, it's fucking insane. And then you see people getting their first sleds now, and it's like, An 18850, yeah, my first sled. You're just like, you motherfucker. Would always joke with like Parker and like Matt Ream, because he's a big snowmobiler, our old team manager from Rossi. And we were always just like, yeah, dude, all these people now are so spoiled. They should have to get like a 2000 snowmobile and get over that hump. Do like a year in that. If you can do it, then you get the right to get this new awesome sled. Because everyone's like, oh, snowmobiling's so easy. Just like, dude, I fucking struggled for so many years.
So was the hard part in the beginning for you getting to the zones? Or did you have to figure out how to learn how to land switch and powder too?
That was definitely a hard part. A lot of those zones that we would get to was like groom trail to get out. So we could get out. Once we got off trail, it was definitely a little bit harder figuring out how to just like maneuver that thing. There was a lot of digging, a lot of cursing, sweating, punching, and just like dealing with that mental, like try not to get too stressed out. And all right, it's going to be okay. You got your buddy, like have him give you a hand. At first, switch landings, I don't even know if I was really trying to like land switch. I was just trying to like figure out how to land in general, because it wasn't a park landing. It wasn't this groomed landing. And it definitely took a handful of years of figuring out how to ski POW.
So it's 2 or 3 years to be confident on landing tricks?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, it took a little while. And yeah, we would just go out and kind of build jumps, either like side country at Mammoth or out in Sonora.
When you decide to step out of contests, because I think in like 2011 you won the North Face Masters and brands have seen you as a competitor. Do any sponsors step away from you when you decide not to focus on contests anymore? No.
Was with like Rossi and Electric at the time, and they were super down with whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't like on the podium or anything like that, so it's not like I was like, oh, this dude who's doing so great and getting us exposure.
But they have a hope. Like, that's one of our contest guys. Hopefully he can get on the podium here. If they support you from when you're in 9th grade, they saw something in you and they thought, this kid competes. He could be our podium guy. He's a cool kid. We want him part of our brand.
Yeah.
And then you decide not to compete. And then there's a couple years of learning how to land in powder where you're probably not producing as much great content as you would like to. And everybody stood by you there. Like
everyone was super cool, supportive. We had been working with Matt Ream since I was like 14 or 15 up until just recently when he went to Armada. So just like a long relationship with him. Jimbo Morgan at Electric. And at that point, it was a fairly smooth transition, I would say, because we had already done some filming with Level 1. And so had something else on the table. It wasn't just like, all right, done with the contest, twiddling your thumbs. What are you doing for this little bit? It was like, well, I'm done doing this because I'm going to go film.
It's time for my final sponsor break. And the first brand I'm going to talk about is Spy Optic. Based out of Southern California, Spy is the intersection of style, party, and technology. They've been supporting snow, skate, moto, wake, and more for the past 25 years, and some of the best athletes in the world like Phil Casaubon, Eric Jackson, and Tom Wallish proudly represent Spy. The reason why the best want to be on Spy's product is because they have been creating goggles and sunglasses that look better than everyone else's, and the Happy Lens outperforms any other lens on the market. I don't have time to walk you through the tech, but next time you're at the shop, try on a pair of Spy goggles or sunglasses and see how much better the lenses are compared to what you're using right now. And check out how much better you look. Don't thank me yet. Thank me after I save you 20% off anything on the Spy site. You know the drill. Go shopping on spyoptic.com, then enter the code TPM20, that's all one word with the number 20, when you check out, and you'll enter the Save and Support program. You save money and support me. And it's easy. Spend $1,000, enter the code, and you only pay $800. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery, and they have been brewing beer out of Bend, Oregon since 2006. And since they started brewing beer, they are committed to skiing, snowboarding, biking, and drinking beer outside. While I see a lot of copycat brands out there lately trying to mimic what 10 Barrel is doing in the outdoor space, no one puts their money where their mouth is like 10 Barrel. This year, they produced both a ski and a snowboard movie. The ski movie is Watch This, featuring Lucas Walks, and then they have Hold My Beer, a snowboard movie featuring Curtis Cizik. They're also holding 3 Hella Big Air events, Where there's big prize money for the riders and a party for everyone else, they support a team of world-class athletes. They have a snowmobile bar, their Beer Cat, and I've seen some images of a mobile jump that looks super dangerous, but that's what 10 Barrel is, dangerous and fun. You can find out about all the events, the Beer Cat, and a whole lot more over at 10barrel.com. And next time you pick up a six-pack, make it a 10 Barrel and drink it outside. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. Sponsors helped you do that. I think Level 1, Jimbo, and probably Matt too, made some phone calls and were like, hey, let's get these guys in the iTrip park shoot or something like that.
Yeah.
That's where eyes were open, like, hey, we got to shoot with this guy every year.
Yeah, they were definitely banging on Berman's door, working with him, with other athletes, and kind of just like, hey, Josh, you got to check these dudes out. They're kind of our next up-and-comers. And so we ended up going to Squaw, I want to say, was that like maybe Turbo year or something? And hitting some jumps because Skull Candy was a sponsor and Jimbo worked Skull Candy and Electric. So we ended up doing some shooting there. Nothing came of it. Same for the next year, Refresh. They had a jump built on the backside of Mammoth, and I knew they were coming. And I remember like emailing Berman. I was like, yo, dude, I hear you guys are coming to film some shit. Like, if you have any room, it would be awesome to come shred with you guys. And I remember he was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And then he ended up hitting us back, and he's like, dude, if you guys can get some snowmobiles so we can tow everyone, you guys are in. And I don't know what, if like our sled wasn't working or something, or we didn't have sleds. And I remember me and Parker begging Bernie Rossow, who had a sled. We were like, dude, you gotta help us out. If we can use your sled and tow all these dudes and ourselves, then we get to hit this jump with these dudes. At first he said yeah, and then he realized that he was just going to be fucking using and abusing his sled to tow all these dudes up. And he's like, yeah, no, fuck you guys. Like, figure it out. But yeah, we got to hit that jump with those dudes. And then it just kind of became like more and more over the years. The iTrip year, we got invited to do some park stuff. That went well. And so we got re-invited to go hit that big Sun Valley jump, and things just kind of snowball effect from there, I guess.
Yeah, I think eventually you get up for Rookie of the Year at IF3. Things start firing right away when you start filming with Level 1, but that puts you into the big time where all the little stuff you're doing, any of the montage stuff, people aren't seeing that. I mean, as much as I love those guys, they didn't have the reach that Level 1 has, not even close.
Nope.
So people know who you are globally when you get into a Level 1 movie. But one thing you mentioned there was Bernie Rossow, and that's an interesting dude. Like, I don't know him. I've emailed with him before, but he never made it as a skier for some reason. I mean, he's made it in his own world. Like, he's doing his own thing. But
sure.
He's like a sick skier. Is there something with that dude that makes it that people don't want to work with him? Because he seems like such a great skier, and you don't have to throw him under the bus or anything. Mm-hmm. But he seems like he should have been sponsored for the past 15 years, and he probably gets free skis.
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely really good at what he does. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
So then you eventually do a full part with Level 1, I think, after dark. And that's the first year of like a ton of travel for you. You go to Europe, you go to Japan. Is that when you're just like, fuck contests, I'm totally done with them?
I want to say I did the Dew Tour at Breckenridge that year. Shitty weather. I remember just getting to the bottom being like, fuck this. I'm done with these. I'm going skiing, pow. I might have gotten a spot into was it a World Cup? Or it was something at Park City that they drug tested, and I was definitely smoking weed before that. That was when I was at X Games. I got the X Games spot, and I was trying to drink a whole bunch of cranberry juice. And Jimbo Morgan's like, dude, this is not going to work. Like, if you were to do well, like, you're going to get busted. Take it from me. Like, I know. He's like, just go film.
So team management advice.
Yeah. No, he got us on a good track. And so, yeah, I remember, that's when I fully shifted and went and did some filming around Utah with those guys. And that was kind of like the first not just park skiing that I did with them, I guess. Went and hit some backcountry jumps and stuff like that.
And they're like, well, this kid knows what he's doing already because you have that experience with the montage crew?
Yeah. I had a pretty good shoot. We were in Utah. I was with Kyle Decker, Ahmet, and we hit some jumps and some other stuff and was able to get some tricks and just like getting along with those dudes, and was like, yeah, this kid's working hard, I guess, and putting some stuff to his feet. And so they kind of gave me a couple more opportunities from there.
And that's how it builds. Something else that built for you is your nickname. I think Kevin Malone gave it to you. It's Dahrkness. There's an H in there. And I feel like that might be your alter ego. Like, is Dahrkness something that comes out when you're drinking, or what does Dahrkness come from?
Yeah, maybe a little bit on the drinking, I guess. I first got it when I moved out to Mammoth from Mal. Was just like the difference between Sean and I. You know him, where a lot of people say very opposites. He's a little bit more freckled and the Irish side of us, and I'm a little bit more like the darker German. So just skin tone and complexion between myself and the rest of my siblings.
You look like the Native American one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a little bit of that, a little bit of like my Long Islandness and rap music, and then I'm sure my after hours activities probably had something to play along with it too.
Okay, so I've talked to Parker, and he said sometimes when he goes to bars, he likes to arm wrestle the biggest dude in the bar. What does Dahrkness like to do that kind of is a standout thing that makes everyone laugh?
I don't know if I have that move like him. I remember someone asking Parker what his party trick is, and he's like, dude, I am the party trick. I don't think I really have a party trick like him. You'd have to ask him.
Do you still live the lifestyle of the older school skier who likes to go big every night and be up early and on the hill every day?
I wouldn't say every night, but I'm really bad at saying no. So I think it's like a good balance of work hard, play hard. Definitely like having a good time, and yep.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done that you feel comfortable talking about?
Oh, how much time do you have? I don't know. Definitely a lot of dumb shit.
You ever gotten arrested?
I have not.
So you've been smart in that respect.
Yeah. I'm able to get out when I should, and I don't know.
All right, we'll get back to your ski career. And you have Level 1. Sunny is kind of like their masterpiece with you back then. That won all kinds of awards and was a great movie. And I feel like when that comes out, that's when you're no longer to anyone Sean Logan's brother. Sean Logan is your brother at that point. People are like, oh, you're Chris Logan's brother. But it takes a little while for that to happen because of Wicked and some of the stuff Montage was doing early on. Do you feel that, like breaking out from under your brother's shadow or that whole crew shadow?
I always say Sean's the best skier in our family. Like, I wouldn't have done what I did, and Devin wouldn't have done what she did if it weren't for Sean. So I give so much credit to him. Like, in my eyes, I thought he was like one of the best. I don't think it was quite like that. I don't know. I never saw it that way. It was kind of just like going out, trying to do everything that I learned from those dudes. They were all moving to Mammoth, like older brother / coach. So it was just like, do what they taught you kind of deal. You know, I'm still his younger brother.
Well, I mean, it would just be interesting for him to think maybe then, if you were the older brother, would he have had all the success that you've had? Because I made a bonehead mistake where I was just texting people about the podcast that we were going to do, and I thought I was texting you, and I was like, hey, you ready to do this podcast or whatever? And it was to your brother. And I felt like a total idiot. And I had to tell him, be like, hey, I like you better than him. I love the Montage crew. I love Sean Decker. Which isn't, I like you guys both the same. But I felt like such an idiot. He's like, no, I figure whenever I get a text or an email like this, it's always for my brother or for my sister. Mm-hmm. And so a weird position for him to be in. But he was able to kind of father all the success that you guys have had.
Definitely.
Which is pretty awesome. And the success that you had eventually grows through Level 1. When you have to make a decision to start the big picture, I mean, that's one where you get to work with Parker, you get to work with your brother, and you get to do all the things you want to do. Is it a tough phone call to call Berman and say, hey, man, I'm not going to be part of your program anymore, and I'm going to be the competition?
Yeah, that was definitely a tough one. I remember we were still trying to figure everything out, and if it was actually going to happen, and if all the sponsors were going to get on board, and we were going to be able to pay Sean to make it happen, and if it was going to be a real thing. And as that was happening, I remember getting a call from Berman that he had some like commercial work in Colorado that was paying for a couple days. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll tell him after that. And so I went and did this shoot with like him, Wiley, Adam DeLorme. And then I was like, yeah, I'll make a couple grand for sure. And then as I was like getting ready to go to the airport, I remember just having to be like, yeah, man, I appreciate everything you've done for us, and it's been awesome, but we have this opportunity of a lifetime and we're not going to turn it down. So we're going to go do our own thing. Definitely blindsided him a bit. And I remember he's like, well, are you doing that as well as filming with us? And was just like, no, we're going all in on this. And that was probably like in a November.
Oh, man.
Yeah, maybe not the best timing. And so, yeah, just the fact of like losing a couple athletes, some sponsor dollars, probably could have done it in a better way. He was like 23, 24, tough telling your boss that you're moving on to something else. So at first I think it was a little funky, but he had always like supported us and was stoked. You know, we weren't the first ones to do it. I think like Phil and Henrik had done something similar. Wallish maybe like right around the same time. So it's just like, sorry, man, we got to go do this. We've dreamt of doing it. We have the opportunity on the table. So that's kind of what we did. And then it was awesome. Then when we came back like 4 years later, he fully welcomed us back with open arms and was like, yeah, we're not doing the project. He's like, well, if you dudes want to come film with us, we'd love to have you. So no, he's been awesome, but that was definitely a tough conversation to have.
I can imagine. I mean, especially like you said, with Phil and Henrik leaving and then you and Parker leaving, Wallace leaving. I mean, if you had those 5 people, that's the best movie of the year right there. If it was just segments from those 5 people, he's losing all of that and has to figure it out. So doesn't get movie of the year again for a couple of years, I don't believe. And that's just a function of losing a lot of athletes, snow and a lot of other things that go into play there. But when you start the big picture, you know that you have a dude that you trust editing your footage and he's going to make you look good. And is that part of the deal too? Is like you want to control how your look and feel comes out?
Yeah, I think that definitely had a little bit to do with it. Yeah, a bit more, I guess, say and feel and how we wanted to be put out. I think we kind of just want to do our own thing and not one person or like 2 segments in this movie of maybe 20 other people and some people you don't know doing stuff that is just different from your style, all like mixed into one thing, like your segment right next to this like real ski-fee stuff going on in Russia or this or that. It was just like, yeah, we just kind of want to do our own thing, backcountry, and put it out the way we want it to be put out and kind of control it. And
so there's your Nimbus style stuff being edited next to some weird shit. Cool shit, but different outlook. Yeah. When you do that, you two get money from your sponsors to support this flick. And I would think that pays for your pretty much vacation of the year, you know, where, well, I mean, because it's work, but it's a vacation too. You're going to cool places. You guys are probably doing it budget. But your brother, it's a full-time job for him where he has to do all the shit work that you guys don't want to do.
All the work.
Yeah. Does he make a real salary doing it or is he just doing it for the love? How does it work for him?
He was definitely on the lower end of things for sure.
Like he'd make 5 times elsewhere if he went to like a corporate company doing that?
Yeah. We paid him all we could. I remember having the conversations with like the Rozzy, like, yeah, you guys should give us a bunch of money to do this. And I was like 23, 24 at the time. We're like, yeah. We're like, dude, we're going to go to work for sure. I think it was just like an awesome opportunity for him as well. He wasn't fucking getting rich by any means, barely making it through. I remember even that first year, I don't even think his first check came in for a couple of months and he was almost ready to just like bail. He's like, dude, I can't fucking do this. Yeah, exactly. I got bills to pay.
He worked his ass off to make that project happen.
He fucking worked tough. Yeah, like, you know, we were skiing and then fucking just being us derelicts. And he did all the work to make that project actually happen. The filming, the editing. He was our weatherman. The website, the social stuff, like everything. He did everything and we did the skiing.
You were just athletes?
Yeah, exactly. You know, we would have say for sure and everything, the feel and the vibe and the music, but it was all him just like working his ass off. Yeah. And he's done that as long as I've known him for sure.
And I hear during the time of filming for that, you wrote an email to Nick Castellangelo, or I don't even know how to pronounce his name, that was a drunk rant who was the head of marketing maybe at Rozzy at the time. What was that all about?
Yeah, Nick Castagnoli. He's our boss man at Rozzy now. We were in Europe, and it was a different time, just the hours, and we were at some film festival. So we were just kind of raging, having a good time. I forget what he asked, but he asked something and I was pretty bunged up. I was like, yeah, no, fuck that. We're not doing that. And then kind of got a little bit of the scaries and was like, yeah, Nick, sorry for that. Been kind of bunged up for a couple of days. Oh, yeah, figured. All good. Water under the bridge.
I thought there might have been more of a story to that, but not.
Oh, no. I can't remember.
So, big picture, that's 3 years of smaller projects, and then you go, the fourth year, I think, is like the big project, is light years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, light years. And that one does really, really well. It becomes a Vimeo staff pick. And when that happens, how many people get their eyeballs on something like that? When you get into one of the two hosts of videos and they say it's a staff pick, does that put like 100,000 more eyeballs on it right away?
I don't know. I don't know even what that one's at view-wise. It definitely gets more eyeballs on it because then it shows up on like the homepage once you get on Vimeo. So a lot of people outside of the ski world who are watching, just like a lot more random people who wouldn't necessarily watch it, getting their eyes on it, which is pretty cool, seeing the views go up. We did the web stuff for 3 years and then weren't sure what we were going to do. I think even at that point, we weren't even sure if we were going to film that year, what was going to happen. And I remember talking with Sean and being like, all right, let's just go all in. Let's do a movie. Because like after so many years of trying to put out web stuff every month or every other month, dealing with like weather, all the factors, just definitely tough and wears on you a little bit. So it's like, let's save all the footage. Let's just do one big movie and go out with a bang. I think we went into that year like knowing it was going to be our last year. So it was like, all right, yeah, let's blow the bank on this, go all in, whatever we can do, and drop a movie and then be done. Drop the mic, Mamba out.
Was it a bummer to not have your own project going into the next season? Or with Level 1, were you just like, fuck it, we're going to do this and it's going to be awesome?
It was definitely a little different. And after like putting your all into your own project and having your name on it for 4 years, it was like a bittersweet. It was awesome. We did all we could and was something super proud of. You know, all good things got to come to an end at some point. So it was kind of just like, all right, proud of what we did and on to the next one. And then that next year was kind of tough at first, just like not sure what to do. For the 4 years before that, knew we were going and what we were doing and filming for. And at first I wasn't sure what I was going to go do or film. And that was zigzag year of Level 1 and talked with Berman and always been super close buddies with Friedel. It was like that opportunity was on the table. So it was sweet. Pretty smooth transition getting back into that. They even hired Sean on to film that year, which made it even that much easier. Just kind of went and filmed with him a bit. Just a couple other different dudes, I guess, and filmed for the Zigzag that year. And then just last year, The Romance with them, their last movie. So it was pretty sweet to be a part of that.
Were you blown away when you heard that they were filming their last movie, their last feature? Because they're still doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. And 20-year run, that's quite a stint there.
You did it for 4 years and probably a lot looser than he does it. So his life must have been just a nightmare for 20 years.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Totally.
So one thing we haven't talked about, and we're getting a little late in the interview, so we'll do this quick, which is probably good for you. We haven't talked about sponsors at all. Who pays you to ski?
Right now, it's Rossignol, skis, and outerwear.
And outerwear. And you have a big impact with them in development of skis. Like you and Parker created their new line of skis, I believe, right?
Yeah. The Black Ops 118 is kind of like our baby. We were skiing this old ski, the Sickle, for a while. Then they had that whole 7 series that didn't quite do it for us. It wasn't really what we were looking for.
Did it for every mass skier in the world, though.
Yeah, it kept the lights on for sure and funded what, we wanted to do and made our ski possible for sure. But as far as like, trying to ride switch and pow and land switch and do all that stuff, it wasn't quite what we wanted.
The honeycomb didn't make it easy to land switch and pow?
No, it made it easier for the 40-year-old to sit in the back seat and love the pow. So yeah, that was like a couple of years in the making, I guess, going to those guys and being like, we need this ski that works for us. Emails back and forth, finally getting some prototypes. getting, that ski out now to the public for the past couple of years, the Black Ops, and now their new line that they just dropped. The whole line is the Black Ops line.
Is that weird to you that you created a ski and then they're like, this is so awesome, I can just say it in a Euro accent. I feel like, this is awesome, we'll make a whole line out of it.
It's pretty sweet knowing that you had a hand in everything. It works for us, and it's a ski that we're really happy with and ride every day. So when people are like, dude, you guys fucking did a good job on this thing, it definitely feels good. And now, for them to then make their whole line, this Black Ops line, which is what you and your buddy helped create. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Well, I hope you get a royalty on every ski in that entire line. No. Who else pays you to ski?
Too. So I just got on with Zeal Optics this year and Wells Lamont gloves. Those guys are helping pay the bill. Look Bindings, that's kind of incorporated with the Rozzy stuff.
So there's no money there? They just give you bindings?
It's all just like between the Rozzy Look deal.
So that's your breadwinner, Rozzy Look and your Rozzy outerwear?
Yeah, Rozzy outerwear, just got on with them as well. Yeah, that's kind of like the bread.
Like 60% of your salary comes from those guys?
Yeah, if not more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have gloves, you have goggles, energy drink?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you not drink them?
I didn't, no. It was a good run while it lasted for sure. Help pay the bills.
That's always a good check, yeah.
Yeah. If you know anybody, link me up.
Okay, you love energy drinks. You drink them all the time.
Yeah, drink them all the time. And then just some people I guess I ride for Tall T Productions. They're just big family. I've worn their stuff pretty much my whole ski career. Paul is the man, so always in that. Haskell base layers, Adam DeLorme's base layer company, some of the best out. Air hole face masks, run those.
So if a McDonald's manager makes $65,000 a year, do you do better than a McDonald's manager?
Fucking, where's he working? No, I don't.
Okay, just checking. No, I think McDonald's managers do pretty well in general. Garbage men do well in general as well. But I tell you, you have a lot more fun than garbage men or McDonald's managers.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like in the 85th percentile of the pro skier on the planet right now. And that's where the salary range is. It's interesting because, the top 2% do really, really well.
Yeah.
But that's like 2% of the business. So it's interesting to see what everybody does.
Yeah.
At this point in the show, it's time for something that I call inappropriate questions. And I could have done this the easy way and called Parker and gotten questions from Parker. But I emailed your brother and asked him to do a full podcast. And I realized I'm an idiot and I want your brother to do inappropriate questions.
You should do a full podcast with him.
At some point I should. I had to get you out of there too. I've gotten your sister.
You hit my sister first and then...
She has a silver medal at the Olympics.
I know she does.
You have an 8th place at the Dew Tour.
Touche.
And I think it was around Olympic time that we put that podcast out. But your brother helped change the game for a lot of people on the East Coast with Wicked. Yeah. And he continued to put out some great stuff throughout his time in Mammoth. He works, I think, full-time for Mammoth now doing video projects.
Yep.
He is the one who's going to ask inappropriate questions for you.
Yep.
I know he talked with Parker and some other people to get some of that information.
Yep. I was actually talking to him at the top of the Space Needle. I saw someone FaceTiming. So I was like, oh, let me give Sean a FaceTime. And he's like, oh, I actually just got off the phone with Powell. I'm like, oh, fuck, buddy.
Well, I will play his first inappropriate question.
So, Chris, this one is kind of off topic from skiing, but in high school, Mom had found some rolling papers in your bedroom. Wondering who you ended up blaming those papers on.
Yeah. My mom knew, we were drinking in high school, and that was, you'll be kids. And then she found some rolling papers up in Vermont. She was not very happy. And she asked where they came from. And we had a good buddy, Alex Cohn, skiing at Mount Snow, who had, 2 weeks before, had just passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And so she asked where they came from. And Alex had bought the papers. And I said, Alex. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? You're going to blame this on the kid who just passed away? I'm like, that's where they came from. They're mine now, but she wasn't stoked on that.
Did you ever get caught for smoking weed anywhere else? Because I heard there was trouble at boarding school. Did you guys get in trouble there for smoking weed?
I wasn't smoking at that point in time. I was in 9th grade. I had smoked, but didn't have anything on me. We were probably in a house of almost 20 kids, and I'd say all but 4 or 5 got sent home for a week. And I was one of those kids who didn't.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have anything on me at the time. But there was definitely some of that going on there. But yeah, whose papers are these? Alex bought the papers.
All right. We will jump into question number 2.
So question 2, I actually had to get a little intel on this one just because I wasn't actually there, but the Dumont Cup at Sunday River, Maine, you had a few practice runs. I'm just wondering how your last practice run went and what kind of unexpected surprise you found after that last practice run.
Yeah, practice was super windy. No one was hitting the jumps. And I maybe had a little too much confidence. I was like, oh, I'm going to hit these fucking jumps. Tried doing a 3, came up real short, just like splatted on the deck and bounced to the bottom and shit my pants.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, and so what happens when you shit your pants on the hill? Do you go straight inside, or do you have to get another practice run in?
No, that was it. I think that was the end of my contest. Like, body was pretty hurting after that. I think I bruised the heel pretty good. Pride was for sure really low, just as far as doing that and then having some shit in your pants and just kind of limping with the tail between the legs back to the bathroom to go clean her up.
You got to, throw away your underwear and
Yeah.
take off your ski boots, get your ski pants off?
Yeah, quite the process after that. I didn't compete at the Dumont Cup. That was the last run I did there.
Shitty experience.
Shitty experience for sure.
All right, we will jump into your final inappropriate question.
The final inappropriate question, I actually did a little research with Friedel, and so your first level 1 park shoot, you had just met Friedel. I wonder what kind of first impression did you make on him, and what did you do to him?
Oh, yeah. So we were at Sun Valley for the iTrip park shoot, and Friedel was downhill, like a ways downhill, and we were just fucking around throwing snowballs. And it was one of those like, oh, I'll never hit him, and packed this fucking snowball and hucked it. It went a fucking ways and just smacked Friedel right in the fucking face. And yeah, I just met this dude, you know, like it's like Berman him, like head of level 1. I'm just like, oh my fucking God. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I did not in a million years think that was going to hit you.
Did you tell him you were a high school quarterback?
Yeah.
I still got it.
Yeah. Ching! Yeah, it was kind of one of those, just like, oh, fuck, dude. Let me just go pack my shit and head back to Mammoth now. But Friedel's the fucking man, and he didn't take it too personal.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're on a long road trip. You stopped here in the beginning, and you've got like 8 hours of driving ahead of you. But I love your family. From Devin, who is the shining star, the silver star, to yourself, to your brother. You guys have done so much for skiing over the years, and it's always been creative and cool to watch, except for Devin, who's more of a robot in the pipe and stuff, but whatever. But it's been a treat to just see 3 Logans make it through. So thank you for your time. Thanks for coming out. And what are you doing this year? What's your project?
Thank you for that, man. And I appreciate being on here and listening to your show and enjoy it. What'd you say? What am I doing this?
Yeah, what's your project? You got to be working on something.
I'm doing some filming with Henrik Harlow for his 2-year movie called Salute. We were just in Baker doing some filming. Heading to Jackson to do a little bit here end of February, and then maybe some park shoot stuff with him. So doing some filming with him this year. And after seeing his quick teaser come out this fall of what he did last year, it looks pretty fucking insane. We had a good time. Him and Crazy Carl, and yeah, it was sweet.
How do you hold up with you guys in the backcountry?
He fucking crushed.
Okay.
Yeah. How did I hold up with him in the backcountry?
Really?
Dude, he's fucking insane. I think you could put that kid anywhere and he'll thrive. Yeah, building jumps, like that's what he does best. It's insane. Some of the shit. It's going to be a really good movie.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm psyched to see that, and thank you for your time, and we are done.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
So that was time with Chris Logan, and it doesn't get any more chill or happy than Chris seems to be. I have never seen the Dahrkness character in action, but I'm guessing when Chris gets too much booze in him, funny shit starts to happen. I don't know. I just get that vibe from him. His skiing speaks for itself, and what speaks even louder than that is Chris being invited to be part of a project with Henrik Harlow. I mean, that dude defines style to me on anything that he skis, and wanting to shoot with Chris, that's a big deal. I can't wait to see what they put together for that project, as Chris's skiing is always entertaining. That's the show for this week. At this point, I want to thank you for listening, ask you to follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement, shoot me an email if you have any feedback, questions, or concerns. My email is mike@thepowellmovement.com, and I will get back to you. Finally, please support my amazing sponsors who make the show happen. They are Evo, 686, Stanley, Spy Optic, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Have a great week, everyone.